If I drank this orange juice from the oranges of Richard Pryor's tree, that somehow, I would be, just become the funniest guy in the world.
Funny man George Lopez on his roots?
What part of Mexico are you from? And I'd say like LA, right by the General Hospital.
Brand new Netflix special?
The Secret Service came to this house to interview me to see if I meant him any harm.
Were you scared? Were you nervous?
The only time I got nervous is when they asked me if I had any firearms in the house. So I said, this house.
And the moment that changed his life.
Sandra Bullock came to see me at an improv, and afterwards she came backstage and she said, I had an idea for a show, but it was more about the teenagers, but after seeing you, I kind of want to go down that road. So she kind of became like my fairy godmother.
You can't live in this world today and not be curious. In fact, if ever there was a time to hear from more than the usual suspects, it's now. This is the Carlos Watson Show. Maybe we'll surprise you. Maybe you'll be mad at us sometimes, or inspired. Not only do I hope people will see more with the show, but I hope they'll do more and be more. People, the good stuff starts now. Hey, George, welcome to the show. It makes me smile to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. I'm excited, too.
Yeah. So, George, where did you grow up?
I was born in the General Hospital, probably 6 miles away from here. And I didn't know my father, so when I was born, the nurse comes in and they said, what are you going to name him? And my mom said, Anastasio. That was the guy who we thought was my father. He looked like Ray Fiennes. I don't look like Ray Fiennes. My grandmother goes, no, we're not going to name him after the father. We don't even know if that guy is the father. She goes, well, what are we going to name him? My grandmother looks around. She goes, what's today? It's St. George Day. So his name is going to be George. And when I bought this house in the living room, it was charcoal, and I told the contractor, hey, clean up that fireplace, And when I came home and looked inside, it was a tile of St. George from the 1920s.
No. Was your mom and her whole family, were they LA folks?
Yeah. My grandmother was born in El Centro, border town out here, so I'm fourth generation. A lot of people think, what part of Mexico are you from? And I'd say like LA, right by the General Hospital.
George, what were you like as a kid? Like if I had met you in high school, we've been buddies, like what were you like?
Let's see, I was an only child, and all my friends had either brothers or brothers and sisters, and I was raised by grandparents. And I was kind of an introvert. I think I had some pretty good teachers that saw that in me, and so I had a teacher that took an interest in me, and not knowing I wanted to be a performer or anything, but just because he saw such a shy kid, always in the back, always in the corner. And as a senior, I went over there and I said, hey man, thanks for looking out for me. And he said, yeah, I saw you. And I thought, this kid's like a smart kid. He's funny. And I just thought I'd try to bring something out in you.
Why do you think you were so quiet?
Well, never had any adult figures to show me the right from wrong. Everything was just always wrong. Everything was always criticized. And if you quit once, they thought you would quit on everything. So when I was like 11, a bunch of us kids were taking accordion lessons. So I got my grandmother to pay for accordion lessons in Granada Hills. And then I'm dyslexic. So imagine trying to hit things with your fingers when you can't even make them out in your head. And so I'm lugging around this thing I don't want to these lessons I don't want to go to. So I quit with maybe 4 lessons left. And anytime I wanted something, she would say, like the accordion. So she thought I was going to quit at everything, but I had to hear about that accordion about everything. Can you get another beer? He's not going to finish it like the accordion. So a lot of criticism made me, it put up now you realize through therapy that it put up a wall, which eventually made me a great performer because I was able to shut off any emotions, but also it created a wall between me and my family and me and, not having a father and having a mother that wasn't around and everything that hurt me, which everything hurt me, but it created a wall of just protection, which eventually I think helped me in some regards of my life, but then hurt me in the other half. So it's like a 50-50.
And why do you think she was that way? Do you think her world had been small? Had her heart been broken? Like why did she operate in the world like that?
I know that she wore an abusive relationship with her first husband, almost like a badge of courage, and she would say, yeah, I took 19 years I took beatings from that man. He beat my kids. I said, well, why didn't you go to a hotel? And she would yell at me, that's a hotel. This was in the 50s. I said, they had hotels in the 50s. Look, all right, you know what? I don't want to talk to you about it. I don't want to talk about it. Just because in our family, if you had a disagreement with somebody, you just avoided that person or you didn't talk, but nobody ever said, listen, we're brothers or we're sisters, and I don't think we should be, not talking. I mean, it's been so long since I saw you. I love you as my sister, accept my apology. Nobody ever did that. You just didn't talk. So to my grandmother, everybody that crossed her was dead to her. They're dead to me. So, you just kind of have this, they're dead to me kind of vibe, with people, which is not healthy. None of it was healthy, I would say. None of it was easy. None of it was healthy. And none of it made me a better person. I didn't become a better person just until the last few years. At 59, I'm not looking for any chit chat or any new information. I think I know more than I should, and the things that people talk about are just kind of so mundane. I just try to keep myself like Bruce Lee, like water. I don't want anybody dropping any of my water.
Like if the pandemic wasn't going on, you think you'd be out and about a little bit more?
You know what? This is how remote and removed I am. I just found out there was a pandemic like an hour and a half ago. Even after the pandemic, I'm still going to live like the pandemic is on because I was living like there was a pandemic before. I'd go to, I'd pull up to get some coffee, and if there was 2 people in there, I wouldn't go in there. So, it's still the same.
It's interesting that you say that, George. I feel like I hear that from a number of comedians, that as funny and as lively as you guys are on stage, I feel like I hear a number of people are loners or a little bit on their own. Is that a classic thing?
Yeah, it's a classic thing, but I think it's not as important, I think, as some people say. So it's a trait, but we're here because you want acceptance, you want to be liked, you want to be on stage when you're not on any type of stage, either in your family or in the family lineage, and they, minimize you and put you to the side and you don't feel important. Well,
interesting. And so, George, when did you start doing comedy?
I started writing jokes at 11. And then in high school, I went to Radio Shack and I bought a microphone stand in high school, 11th grade. And then I stole a microphone from my high school. It's right here. I always have it with me. So this is the microphone stand that I bought at Radio Shack in San Fernando. And this is the microphone that I stole from the audiovisual department. And it still says San Fernando High. It says LAUSD, Unified School District. So I would stand in front of the mirror in my bedroom and talk into the mirror using that microphone.
How did you make ends meet in those early years before you made it?
I worked with my grandmother in Van Nuys at this place called Sperry Aviation, and Richard Pryor lived on Parthenia. And he had an orange tree hanging over the street into Parthenia, and one night after work, I saw the oranges. So I said, hey, Richard Pryor oranges. So I'm jumping up, trying to, grab an orange or two. I cut them in half, and I squeeze it. I drink the orange juice, thinking that if I drank this orange juice from the oranges of Richard Pryor's tree, that somehow, I would become, I just become the funniest guy in the world.
George spent many more years as a struggling stand-up before finally making a splash with his self-titled sitcom George Lopez, which aired on ABC from 2002 to 2007. The series was a critical success and drew its storylines directly from George's own life.
What's wrong with you? What, now that I'm grown up, you need somebody else to smack around?
Please, I never hit you.
What? You used to hit me all the time.
All right, so I smacked you a few times. You turned out all right.
You turned out all right. That's your answer? Look, my head is never supposed to be this big. This is all swelling.
Many of the characters were even based on members of his own family.
We move good together.
And in this way, he was able to spin thoughtful humor out of some of life's most painful moments.
Órale, qué bruto me estás matando.
Hey, English! She said you're very handsome and lovely.
George, why do you think that after your show, because I don't think after your show there's been another sitcom on a major network with a Latino family or with a Mexican-American family. Am I wrong?
No. The reason that there hasn't been one is that, and I used my stories of my life, and the reason there isn't is because someone who's Caucasian or someone who's African-American is not going to write a story about a Latino family and then have it sell because they don't know what a Latino family is.
Now, did your grandmother live long enough to see you on stage and winning and doing well?
Yeah. When I finally did get my show the night of the pilot, and I said, "So what'd you think, Grandma?" And she said, "You want to know?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to know. What do you think?" She looks at me in the sideways like this in the car, and she says, "If I would have known that it was going to take that long, I would have stayed home."
Is that really what she said?
Yeah. Yeah.
But her heart was bruised, George. She wasn't able to be generous of spirit in the way that ideally someone would be. Because when I'm hearing that's someone who's so bruised that they are putting their trauma on the next person.
The "You've been dreaming about this car since you were 8" policy from American Family Insurance.
George, we always talk about dreaming fearlessly and what it takes not only to dream fearlessly, but realize it. If you were going to give advice to a younger George, what would you tell him about dreaming fearlessly?
I would say that don't be afraid, because it's ultimately, there's only two things that can happen. You can do well or you could not do well. You can either go on stage or not go on stage. You could only fail or succeed. And I would tell him to not have failure be an option and just don't look back, look forward and just keep digging. In the late 90s, I get a message from somebody saying, "Hey, I have this idea, me and my producing partner, and we'd like to come and see you." And they finally got the producing partner to come and see me. It was Sandra Bullock. So Sandra Bullock came to see me at an improv out here. Then afterwards, she came backstage and she said, I had an idea for a show, but it was more about the teenagers. But after seeing you, I kind of want to go down that road. Your grandmother sounds crazy, or the way you grew up sounds wild. And so I met with her, and then we went down the road. She had just been doing Miss Congeniality, and she had lost her mother, so she was in a place where she was a little bit disillusioned by Hollywood after losing, somebody so close to her. And when she saw me, she said that she saw somebody who just had so much spirit and was so willing to do anything that was required to show somebody they were funny. So she kind of became like my fairy godmother, and somebody can only take you so far, and then you have to take yourself the rest of the way. But, she gave me an opportunity, and I was always ready when the opportunity presented itself. And I've never told anybody this, but at the end of the first season, they do like a retrospective of the whole year. And then they put all the, like the people who have been on the show and all the guest stars in the clip. And the last clip is her and I standing next to each other, and I look at her and she looks at me, and I just went like that. And you could see the appreciation, you could see the respect and the love in just that one moment. You could see how much I appreciated her and how much I loved her for believing in me.
I love my community. I love Latino people all over the world. We don't know each other, but we follow this simple rule. One bean, you with the whole burrito.
Hey, tell me about your new special on Netflix. I love the title.
We'll Do It for Half came from the situation where I went to lunch with Cedric the Entertainer and his family. And when I came out, I looked at the Hollywood Unlocked on Instagram, and it said that Iran had offered a bounty for our leader, and it was $80 million, I have to say allegedly. And then I said, we'll do it for half. And then when I got home, I got these calls from my publicist. He's like, what did you say? I said, when? What happened? You know, you're like everywhere. Like, what did you say? Did you make a threat against? I said, I made a threat against the president. I said, we'll do it for half. And then the Secret Service came to this house to interview me to see if I meant him any harm. And you know,
whoa.
like I said,
the Secret Service came to your house?
Mm-hmm.
Were you scared? Were you nervous?
You know, allegedly, the only time I got nervous is when they asked me if I had any firearms in the house. So I said, this house. So I wasn't nervous any other time, but they were cool. They weren't looking to take me away. But if they had assessed that, I did feel like I was a threat. And then when I got on stage, I said, you know, they took it as a threat. I took it as an estimate. and then when Netflix came up, Troy Miller, that directs my special, said, hey man, you got to call it. We'll do it for half.
Now, you know, the police, they got to be smarter to be Latino, you know. Before, we could just pretend not to speak English. Now, because of ICE, you get pulled over. They don't ask you for driver's license registration. They get to it. Do you speak English? You're like, ay, under your breath. Yes.
Hey, George, as we wrap up, you mind if we do a quick rapid fire? I'm going to hit you with 5 or 6 rapid fire questions, and whatever comes to the top of your mind.
All right.
I say Kobe Bryant. You say what?
I say devastating loss.
I saw one of the things where I think you called him. What'd you call him? What was that nickname you had for him?
Carne asada. Because Kobe, he was named after Kobe meat, you know?
Yeah.
A tender meat. Yeah. So, you know, our tender meat is carne asada. So, you know, with Vanessa and Kobe and knowing the girls knowing them even before they got married, that when he got his All-Star Weekend here in 2010 and he got his hands put in Ramos Chinese, I started calling him carne asada, and he signed his picture for me upstairs, and he put, you know, carne asada. I told the talk that it's the only relationship in my life where 20 years later, I'm more in love than I was in the beginning.
If you could have dinner with any comedian, dead or alive, who would you want to have dinner with and why?
I'll probably say Freddie Prinze, because Freddie Prinze inspired me. He died when he was 22. He committed suicide. He had come from New York with some issues. Probably was maybe manic depressive, maybe bipolar. You know, I became friends with his son. I became friends with his widow. I got his star on the Walk of Fame. And I would love to have dinner with him to see if there was any way that I could help him, you know, and just to say, hey man, I got you, man, you know?
Yeah. Who does that for you? Who's gotten you?
Carlos Santana is a great mentor of mine. Edward James almost is a great mentor of mine. Cheech, you know, those guys, Cheech and I kind of come from the same neighborhood, and Arsenio, and, you know, people like that I've known a long time that you know, you go to, and those are your guys that are there all the time.
Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Man, I love George Lopez's story. Love Sandra Bullock and the way she stepped in for him. Learned a lot from George about the idea of not just getting through the door, but how do you make sure you turn that into a long-term win? You could hear his pride, his drive, and I appreciated him being as humble and as open about what criticism and quitting has done to him. I have a feeling that he's going to turn that into something that benefits lots of other people. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want more of this kind of good stuff, go ahead and subscribe. We're here every day. More good stuff. See you soon. Hey, tune into the Carlos Watson Show. It's like no other. You're going to enjoy it every weekday on YouTube.